Hi, welcome to Outside with Clyde. Are you in the market for a new tent, specifically something for canoe camping? Well, I recently purchased an REI Half Dome 3 SL Plus tent for our canoe trips. And in this video, I cover what I like about the tent and the reasons I selected it, including my experience with previous tents I've owned. Last August in Quetico Provincial Park, our existing tent started leaking during a heavy rainstorm. And after some attempts at re-waterproofing the fly, I decided I'm buying a new tent. Hopefully you find this video helpful in your search for some new gear. And if you like it, please leave me a like. Any questions or comments, you can leave them in my YouTube channel, and I'll get back to you. Thanks, and live outside. My first canoe camping trip was in September 1990 with my 4-year-old son and a bunch of borrowed equipment, including this canvas barn-style 4-person tent. It had to weigh at least 25 pounds and took up a lot of space in the canoe. The next year we made our first serious equipment purchase and bought this Eureka Alpine Meadows 4-person tent. We needed a tent big enough for 2 adults, 2 kids, and a dog. We bought the tent in 1991 and it was our main tent for 19 seasons. It's no lightweight, comes in at 11 pounds, including the vestibule. In 1991, the Timberline by Eureka was a popular tent used by scouting troops. And the Alpine Meadows version that we purchased was similar to A-frame style, but had doors and windows on both ends. It also had that center hoop that gave more interior space. Our model was discontinued in later years, and today Eureka sells the Timberline SQ Outfitter, which is a pretty close match to our tent. So the tent is pretty snug with 4 people, but the added vestibule, which we purchased separately, adds a lot of storage space. And today Eureka, the brand, is owned by Johnson Outdoor Products, which also has the Jetboil line you might be familiar with. And the tent is very spacious. You can open up the complete end of the tent on both ends, actually, and makes for pretty airy during the day. However, with all the vents and everything closed, it is a very warm tent. The mesh they used back then is fairly heavy. The quality was excellent. This tent has stood up well over the years, and I still keep it in my arsenal, but only as a backup. It is quite heavy for the type of camping that we do. The zippers have held up well, and the bungee cords have given up a little bit, but otherwise everything functions well. In 2011, I purchased this REI Half Dome 2 Plus tent, something better suited to the longer excursions we were taking, and I could also use it on solo trips with myself and the dog. The tent was considerably lighter than our Eureka, but still not a lightweight, coming in at just over 7 pounds. Including a footprint that I purchased after the fact. The reviews for this tent were very good and have continued to be good over the years, and it was very well priced versus other comparable tents. Fairly easily set up, but you will get a little bit of rain in the tent if it's a thunderstorm while you're putting the tent together. REI has since discontinued this tent and replaced it with the Half Dome SL series, both 2- and 3-person tents. This has also been a great tent and has held up well over the past 14 seasons. The zippers have held up well, but I have had to wax and clean them a couple of times over the years. Again, this tent's a bit snug for 2 people, but the nice thing, it does have access doors on each side, so each individual can get in and out of the tent on their own side, and then have their own storage area under the fly on their side of the tent. Lots of built-in storage compartments around the tent for flashlights and other things, and the mesh is thin enough that it's fairly cool in warmer weather. I had a leak last August in a rainstorm in a Quetico Provincial Park, so I seam sealed both the interior and the exterior to try and help that. My only complaint is rain can drip off the fly inside the tent when the door is opened. Now my new tent, the REI Half Dome SL3 Plus 3-person tent. The tent comes in just under 6 pounds, including the footprint which comes with the tent, and 8 stakes. So I did review many different brands of tents, three-person tents, including Big Agnes, Nemo, Mountain Hardware, Marmot, MSR, and Sea to Summit. And ultimately I decided to go with REI again because of the excellent durability and experience I had had with the similar design of the 2 Plus tent, and as well as being able to buy the tent during the REI anniversary sale and saving 30%. So this is a freestanding tent, and I first pitched it without the stakes, but really to have full weatherproofness, you need to have all the stakes in to pull the fly out. You can see how the side on the fly drapes down without being staked out, as well as the ends aren't too bad, but they could use a stake as well, and the other side hanging down as well here. Here's the tent fully staked out. It takes 8 stakes to fully stake the bottom, 4 in the corners and 2 on each of the ends. I've added these guy ropes or Dyneema cord, a very thin Dyneema cord. It'll take a lot of poundage. I do this to all my tents, save some weight and some bulk when the tent is packaged up. I added 4 more stakes to the bag to use with these tie-outs. I've also added a reflective cord to each of the stakes. And the fly is attached to the tent with these buckles instead of grommets. Each side of the fly has a vent opening with a Velcro attachment to keep the vent open or closed. Both sides of the tent have access doors. The opening is quite large, and then a 2-way zipper for the screen portion of the tent. The quality of the stitching and the zippers seem similar to the quality on the Half Dome 2 Plus tent. There is a single seam down the center of the floor with the bathtub coming up around the edges, and then the rest of the upper of the tent is a no-seam mesh, fairly thin. Lots of pockets, a couple overhead pockets, and then in each of the corners as well. Versus the Half Dome 2, we shave 2 pounds and also gain much more floor space. So for 2 of us, I think it'll be much more comfortable. I also have a hammock sleep system, which I'll use for solo trips when weight is more important. I mentioned earlier that the Half Dome 2 had an issue with rain dripping off the fly into the tent. So it looks like on this design they've extended the fly past the footprint and also have a ridge of material along the edge that'll catch a rain and allow it to run down to the corner of the tent. There were many excellent 3-person tents on the market, but I went with the REI brand based on my positive experience with my previous REI tent.